Many of you have been feeling a growing sensation that our reality may not be as permanent and refined and definite as we maybe once believed. I mean, AI is exposing to us that there's a greater field of knowledge that was kind of apparently always at our fingertips, but is, you know. Political tyranny and global government is at an all-time high, just complete corruption. Aliens and outer space and conscious collective and what have you is all kind of on the mainstream debate table now. And there's a lot of distress and duress out in the collective nature. It seems like it's pulling us at the seams. One of my big goals is to help people become the leaders of their own lives. And why is that? I think it's a very pivotal time in history and in our coexistence together as a society and civilization even, that we unlock some of these truths of our inner beings and inner conscious to help us guide ourselves and each other towards a path forward. So in this video, I'm going to talk about a couple keynotes that I like to remember and what actually becoming the leader of your own life really looks like. So let's get into it. Number one, expanding your awareness. This always sounds simple, and I know a lot of people talk about this on YouTube. I think it's something that can always be talked about further. Awareness is not just this tiny little bubble. Maybe it starts as this tiny little bubble, but even if you do any simple meditation practices, you know, a lot of meditative practices will start you off by, hey, draw your awareness to the center of your chest, or your heart chakra. Draw your awareness down to the base of your spine. Connect with your root chakra, things like that. Expand your awareness outside of your body. See how far it goes. See how far your awareness goes into the void. And this is something we can continue to talk on. 100%. There are so many different practices, like recognizing your triggers in your social life. Or maybe it's not even your social life, your media life. How many times does the algorithm pull you in because you're triggered emotionally? That's what it's designed to do. Maybe you get angry. I know so many people get so angry at the political divide, the MAGA and the Trump's ballroom or whatever. It's important to consciously draw attention to those triggers, and rather than keep pointing the finger at the boogeyman and who's doing it wrong, who's doing it right, why this person should be censored and banned and what have you. How much more valuable is it if we say, why is this something that's actually garnering so much of my emotional attention? Does it remind me of my past in some way? Does it remind me of maybe someone that I used to be? I'm relatively apolitical at this point in my life, but there was a point in time where I was on the left, and when I started shifting away from that, I started resenting all my time that I had spent on the left and endorsing different sort of runoff buzzword catchphrase statements that I had adopted as my truth for so long. And when I started to steer away from that and I started to feel deceived for a long time, it was exactly that. It was the left and the Democratic Party that had triggered me so much. And everything they did, it was disgusting to me. It was disgusting to me because I felt my past self in that. And I felt angry at how I had been completely duped completely duped into thinking that I was on the side of altruism, and that couldn't be weaponized. And it absolutely can. Over time, it's not like I swung all the way to the right either. I mean, I went, the right was aligning for a little bit with what I was into, but ultimately they have their own terrible drama, and I'm not endorsing a MAGA thing anyway. I'm not endorsing Republicans. I think they're batshit nuts in their own right, their own form of cult as well. But I was never really on the right, you see? I was never really considered myself a Republican or anything like that, so I don't have deep emotional wounds related to something like that. And I don't get triggered by that as much. This is all kind of touching on something like what I would call kind of like shadow work, looking at what exists in your past that shocks you into sort of some type of paralysis, some type of inner drama or turmoil that is worth diving into and seeking out. I saw someone that I had a very short-lived relationship with on my social media feed the other day, and I realized that there was an existing fear of me having some kind of confrontation with them again just because I'm putting myself out on the internet. And residing in a place where I've built the preparedness to take on anything that I need to of my past. I think constantly, who do I need to reach out and who do I owe apologies, or what actually happened in my past when I was drugged out and I was drunk and inconsiderate of people, or vice versa. I don't know where anyone's at. It's just seeing people like that and touching back with your past, that'll ignite those triggers in you that are definitely worth looking at. The second way that I would say I really like to tap into when it comes to becoming the leader of my own life is another simple phrase, probably kind of a buzz phrase as well, but it's just raising your vibration. In my opinion, and from some of the research that I've done, creative essence sits inside this vortex between the polar opposites of love and fear. And obviously, it's easy to say, we are love, we are nothing but love, creation comes from love. But the controls around you and in our environment, they dangle fear in your they dangle fear in your face all the time. And you see it all over YouTube as well. There's something known as a fear hook. People hook you in with some kind of fear. Oh, you won't believe this. This is absolutely why the billionaires are panicking, or that's more shock, I guess, but this is why you should be panicking. We only have 6 more weeks of gas, or something like that, There's a fear element that's pulling on, even for entertainment purposes. That's something that I would say is beckoning you to not raise your vibration. Now, if you look into one book that I've come across over the past couple years is the 528 Prosperity of Love by Leonard Horowitz, and it details some of these polarities in a much more mathematical way. I recommend it to any musical artists, any audiophiles, just people who are sonically involved in the world, as well as people who are just into, sort of the metaphysics of our existence and things like that. Basically, the 528 hertz love frequency is something that is said to resonate in the core of our existence, in the core of creation itself, and ultimately the frequency that will, I would say, save the world. It sounds cliche. I got lack of better terms right now. I could do some deeper dives on this particular book actually in future videos. Another thing I'd like to talk about very briefly is that raising your vibration often comes with some recognition of what may be existing in your body as well. So it's important to note things along the lines of the human biofield, sound bath healing, somatic healing with breath work and things like that can actually help shed some of that toxicity that you've been holding on to in an electric way within your being for maybe most of your life that you haven't realized. My third pillar of becoming the leader of your own life is honoring your higher spiritual self. You only live once, or do you? Now, I personally have had some sensational experiences with loved ones beyond my body. Specifically, off the top of my mind, with my grandparents, both of whom I knew in my life but have passed on. One experience was a heavy, known as heroic dose of mushrooms that I took. There was a inherent nature in me feeling that the field was much more of a space that I could almost physically, metaphysically go out and find her. Recognizing that there was a connection of love that still held us together out in some place in the intangible world, in the intangible universe, the vast expanse that we could connect. I've also had this experience through dreaming with my grandfather as well, that particular grandmother's husband. This is not exactly proof that life goes on outside of the human body experience, but why would this experience stop at the death point? You have so many people coming back from near-death experiences saying, even at the very least, in the shallow sense, that there is depth with the conscious beyond the death of the body. Now we can get into the type of karmic wheel soul traps and whatnot are after that, but regardless, there is an existence of soul and consciousness and awareness that holds on in this collection of energy that is existing in our bodies past the death of the body, regardless. So if you feel the infinite divine or the infinite within you, within this life, why would it just stop afterwards? This all feeds into something that I say to myself all the time, and it's that believing propagates greater belief. And that is a power that propagates itself, in my opinion, far past the tangible existence and the three-dimensional plane. For whatever it's worth, in taking the lead of your own life, give yourself these moments to wake up to the preciousness of your life and continue your path towards leadership and your own spiritual growth.